That looks okay.
No.
Video views are coming. You are in luck. Tick the algorithm and give it a little F.
Can't see the actual chat.
Video are coming. Tick the algorithm and give it a F.
Yes, we are.
We won't know
It's
when
streamers.
it's
Oh my god, Neil theme song. Yeah, people are excited.
Do we exist?
I don't know if we exist.
I'm checking on my phone. No.
Everyone's going theme song, theme song.
Oh, now
Oh
we're...
god, there we are. Oh my god. Look at me.
Hello.
I look like shit.
Hello.
Do we exist?
Hi.
We exist.
Can we
Hello,
be
everyone.
heard?
We're checking everything first, but also we're not going to even look at the chat.
Okay.
I'm looking.
Okay. We're good. We're good.
Alright.
We exist.
We can see you. We exist. We exist.
Okay.
Congratulations,
Okay,
everyone.
Welcome all to the first F the algorithm, not to be confused with FD signifier. It's a cute bunch of people who have audiences, and we want to take those audiences and force them to do our bidding, and so we can share them around with other people. Unbelievable people like Caelan, Conrad, mainly Mandy, Little Hoot, Zoe B, and Neil and Sarah from the Leftist Cooks. How are we all doing? Are we all very excited to show these amazing videos to these people?
Oh yes.
I am, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Oh,
I'm like, I don't know about any of
enthusiastic.
you, but...
Palpable excitement. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Well, we're all here. We've actually just been chatting for like 20 minutes or whatever, panicking, making sure that we can get this amount of screens to you. And thanks to Caelan, we just about have managed it. So, you know, hats off and round of applause to Caelan for getting
Yes,
us here.
everyone shout out Caelan, please. They worked very hard on this.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
accept this.
basically reloading on Caelan's actual effort. So yeah, you probably already get the idea that we're going to try and shine a light on videos that wouldn't normally get, you know, much traction in the algorithm. Often because creators are marginalized, or because they don't just magically have, you know, big community share in the first place. Most videos don't get that many views. But we've discovered through submissions and through looking around some amazing creators that have, you know, shamefully like just tragically small audiences.
It's evil.
Or in some cases, actually not that tragic at all, because also Dr. Fatima is going to be featured today. But yeah, and we want to show them to you, so that you will click on them, and you will watch them, and you will subscribe to those channels. We've created a playlist, which we're going to go through, but you will have access to as well. And so it's really easy. You just subscribe to every single one of those and make sure you watch the entire video. Because as we do this, we're going to be trying to show you how you too can F the algorithm. And one of the first things you can do is not watch the first 5 seconds and then click away, please. And don't recommend it to friends who will do that. But anyway, shall we just get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Hell
More
yeah.
enthusiasm.
Yes!
Yes! Woo! Do this!
The first video is going to be presented by someone who isn't here, because unfortunately we're one person down. Mika from the amazing channel Ponderful will be part of our core little F the algorithm group, but unfortunately has COVID. And funnily enough, what's this first video about, Mandy?
It's actually about COVID denialism, weirdly enough. And by the way, Mika is in the chat right now. You can see her as Ponderful. So everyone say hi to Mika, wish her well. COVID has, I mean, the first time we actually, I know some people know this, but the first time we were going to do the stream was last month, but poor Neil and Sarah had COVID last month. So COVID has just been trying to take us out one by one, and that's not cool. We will keep effing this algorithm. Gosh darn it. They can't stop us.
I feel like we need to be scared every stream. Like, just like
Every
wondering
stream.
who's next. It's like
Who's
Final
next?
Destination.
Right. Final COVIDation. No, that's
You
not.
got it.
That's not good.
Got
Thank
him.
you. So because Mika's not here, I'm gonna present on her behalf. She wrote up this nice little paragraph that I'm just gonna read and use her beautiful words. So what she wanted me to say is that their channel is amazing. She's been struggling with the algorithm due to not being able to keep a consistent upload schedule due specifically to disability. This video is a complete deep dive into every wrong thing people say about COVID. Leslie always does a load of research and is always nuanced and thoughtful. And she's planning on introducing some new visuals to their videos soon. So very excited. I don't know anything about this video other than what Mika's been saying, and she's been chatting it up big time. So I'm super excited to see a clip from it. So everyone get hyped and everything. Woo.
Oh, let's watch.
Okay. I'm gonna start a couple seconds before the clip is supposed to start because I feel like I'm gonna miss something if we don't. Because I have not tried this before. So let's try.
We do like
But
it.
what
That
can
could
I
be our
do?
thing we do. Let's
Again,
try.
feel free to add your
Let's try.
suggestions and resources. I have a resource document in the description, and I can
Can
add
everybody
your
hear
information
it?
there. Some good places
Yes.
to
Okay.
start might be mutual
Let us
aid
know,
and
chat.
dual power building. For more immediate results than asking the government, pretty please, can we have some PPE so I don't kill my grandma? I'd suggest creating and participating in mutual aid and dual power building projects. If you have resources to share, share them. If you're in need, ask. Set up food banks, clothing drives, free stores, public gardens, community care centers, and don't wait around to ask for permission. Collectively, we can build communities of care, which can and do distribute resources from each according to their abilities and to each according to their needs. Watch this video for an overview on mutual aid, including how to distinguish between mutual aid and charities. Here's some online mutual aid funds you can donate to or apply for, and some other resources for building your own communities. Workplace organizing. Workers have more power now than they've had in decades due to massive labor shortages and what seems to be an overall hesitancy among younger generations to literally risk their lives for unnecessary labor. What's being called the Great Resignation is demonstrably helping to raise wages across the nation. Keep quitting low-paying jobs. Keep organizing your workplaces. Refuse to be paid less than a living wage. The CDC lowered quarantine recommendations from 10 to 5 days due to corporate pressure, implying that businesses can't even handle a full 10 days without just a few employees. This is clearly unsustainable, but great news for work strikes. Businesses need to be pressured into treating workers like human beings. Push your employers to enact COVID-safe policies like work-from-home accommodations, mandatory mask wearing, hand sanitizer, paid sick leave, mandatory frequent testing and/or vaccines, healthcare, and living wages, so employees can actually afford to be housed and shelter in place if necessary. The more we empower workers and promote collective action, the more we incentivize community care. I've provided some helpful resources for getting started on organizing efforts in the description below. Here's a good video if you're just introducing people to these ideas in the context of COVID. And here's an important video which discusses how unions have too often been pro-war. Be careful your organizing efforts are not divorced from an anti-imperialist framework. Strikes and protests. Rent strikes, work strikes, even letter-writing campaigns, petitions, social media posts, and op-eds. Now is the time to refuse to put up with bullshit and be as loud as possible about it. If possible, try to get ahead of the bullshit. It's always better to play offense. And do what you can to make your demands heard by people who can enact material change. Obviously, no mutual aid project or union has the power of the current federal government. If you can help people right now via passing specific legislation, then go for it. I mean, 4 free tests per household isn't enough, but it's more than zero. 400 million free disposable masks for a population of 329 million isn't enough, but it's more than zero. If it helps, do it. Talking to people. That all being said, mobilizing is obviously ill-advised during a pandemic. Much of what we can focus on right now is formulating shared material goals and having conversations in order to refine our ideas and convince others of the importance of these goals. Remember that Occupy Wall Street happened 3 years after the financial crash. Let's let the pandemic be a similarly motivating event. Make videos, make memes, write blog posts, have one-on-one conversations, keep tweeting and Facebooking and TikToking. Do whatever you can to be visible and debunk, or ideally get ahead of misinformation. It's essential to get individual people to take this pandemic seriously again, shielding and wearing masks and vaccinated. And, of course, we need them to support measures that would make these things easier for the average person to do. I'm going to do an overview of some common talking points and misunderstandings that I see regularly, and I hope what I say can help you reach people where they're at and educate them. I marked off the sections, so feel free to skip around. There are plenty of people hovering in a space of soft denial and vaccine anxiety who could potentially be convinced to isolate, vaccinate, and maybe even support work protest movements or government support measures, other than, or in addition to, vaccine and testing mandates. It's all about harm reduction at this point. There are no perfect solutions. I'm not going to bother with how to handle people who think COVID isn't real or other deep state conspiracy theories like that. Here's a video on how to talk to people who are into conspiracies if you want to try and dive down that rabbit hole with someone. Good luck. These are soft denial talking points I see from average people and in the mainstream media. You might even hold some of these biases and misconceptions yourself. Oh, and disabled people, I know you're tired, and I know these conversations are hard. You should take what time you need to take care of your own mental health, but try and channel some of your healing through organizing like I'm trying to do with this video. I'm really hoping this video can help ease some of your emotional labor. It's incredibly frustrating and draining to feel like you have to display superhuman levels of patience and empathy on the off chance someone will listen to you, while largely being dismissed and fearing for your life. Abled people, we need you to start picking up the slack. This video has honestly been the hardest one I've made so far because of the real, imminent threat of this virus to the lives of people I care about. And because it's so f***ing long. Alright, before we start, let's do some basic tips for talking to people. Again, you can skip this section if you just want the talking points.
Oh.
Well, that was fun.
Am
What
I
a fun time.
unmuted? No.
I am really impressed when somebody can do the Sean style of just having the words and the words are enough. Especially, I can't do that.
I could never. Absolutely not.
Also, it's the other neglected side. I feel like I'm very much in like theater kid baguette tube, and that's very much like the actual like here's the things you can do, here's how they work.
Yeah.
And like we need that. We need more of that.
Yeah. 100%.
Definitely seeing just that little clip of that video makes me want to watch the rest of it for sure and hear more about what Leslie has to say about the soft denialism, because I being an able-bodied person, I probably have accidentally played into that before, and I would love to learn more. They have this really great speaking rhythm that makes me feel very engaged and not talked down to. It's very much engaging with the audience in a very comfortable way that I always like. And I think when you can do that well, that's always something to celebrate and look into. So chat, you should definitely go subscribe to Leslie. Also,
Yeah,
my
I
cat's
definitely,
playing here.
like-
Hi. Sorry.
Like the audio quality and their
Yeah.
presence was just like really great. I mean, I know I'm sure for a lot of us starting out, like it's hard to talk to a camera and sound like, an actual human being.
Or even
And so I
just
think that-
not sound like shit because your
Yeah.
audio setup is horrible.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely really, I was really impressed by that as well. And I really like how they referenced other videos, like specifically, it was like, if you want this kind of information, go
Mhm.
watch this thing, or, and especially in a, 3-4 hour video, like they could have covered all of those things in their own thing, but instead it was like, I always am really impressed when people, have that sort of sense of community and sense of like, I don't have all the answers. If you want some other answers to these questions that I cannot answer, go, seek out these other people.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was really impressed by all of that.
Everyone already said
Yeah.
everything I wanted to say.
Say it again.
Okay, honestly, the audio quality, like, I know, like, I'm
Really good.
sure all of us have at some point got this like horrific comment that's like, nice video, but couldn't listen to a single thing you said because your audio is shit and so are you. So it's honestly just really impressive to get something that's like both engaging like in the content, but also just like well produced.
It's a lovely little video, and I agree that the building nodes, building community, and being humble is always very reassuring in terms of like, okay, maybe I should listen to this person because they know how to listen to other people. So no, that's helpful. All right, well, that's Leslie X with COVID denialism. A wonderful recommendation, and you're all going to subscribe now. And when you watch the video, you're going to watch it the whole way through, or at least half or 3/4. So, you know, bear that in mind, because we're all part of this. It's just that we're the only ones who get to have any fun. Okay, so more homework for everyone. Moving on to Sarah's first recommendation. We all got together and decided we would all bring a recommendation, and then Sarah decided, I want more of me, even though we're also the one already the channel that gets 2 recommendations. So now we get 3 recommendations.
You know what? I really like YouTube. And I watched a bunch of people's videos, and I couldn't pick. I even picked others too, but I'm like, no, I've got like the next 4 streams, and I needed to have 2. So, Caelan, because they are doing all the tech stuff today, they don't have a video to present, so I stole a video off of them. So this one is my first one, and it's by, I wrote it all down. So this is by Bootstrap Paradox, and he is a PhD student, and he did this 2-part series about about the way capitalism created disability, and it's really good. There's like a whole secret history section about physical anthropology. There's so many citations throughout the whole video. There's a cool little sci-fi thing in the beginning. It's amazing. It's so good. The whole video is good. I watched this one. I watched the other one in the series. I think he's so good, and you should go subscribe to him right away. But here's the clip anyway.
Sold.
And just so everyone knows, like, we pretty much only the person who chose the video has seen it. So the rest of us are seeing these for the first time too. We're not just like, we didn't all agree on this. We're showing them to each other as well. So I'm super excited to see this. And I'm not just like vamping. Okay.
Yeah, and there could be a horror in there somewhere where we're all like, why what the hell is this?
Let's hope. Spice up this stream. Okay. Let's go.
For as long as there have been humans, humans have been different. For most of our history, the history of our genus, that is, there have been many different species of human, often coexisting and interacting with one another. And yes, by interacting I also mean fucking. Our ancestors were hooking up with Neanderthals. It's in our genes, I'm sorry. Even among our specific kind, Homo sapiens, diversity has always been the norm. We are an intensively social species that depends on each other for survival. Apart from stuff like cooperation and storytelling and problem solving, we really don't have much other strong points. So, thousands of years ago, when we survived exclusively through hunting and gathering, every skill and ability was needed. As I've discussed before, some traits that can cause a problem in the modern society weren't even an issue back then. Traits like a difference of circadian rhythms or many aspects of neurodiversity. Other traits and impairments did cause problems though. Anything that limits your mobility, for example, since hunter-gatherers move places a lot. However, even these individuals were taken care of in their family groups. We know because we have evidence, like in the form of skeletal remains, that show severe childhood bone abnormalities in individuals that clearly made it into old age. So these people could not walk properly and therefore could not hunt or gather, and also needed help moving around from place to place, and yet they were protected and cared for by the family group. We also know that family groups took care of their elders, for example helping them with eating even after they had lost all of their teeth. People remained important and valued in their community even long after they stopped being able to work or have babies. The grandma effect is legit, people. One of our defining characteristics as a species is kindness and compassion. It's taking care of others and seeing their value even in a dangerous and scary world. Don't ever forget that. I'm not claiming that things were perfect. Life was tough, resources were limited, and the world was often unkind. These people had no effective treatment for most infections. They depended entirely on their environment and could not always protect themselves from predators or occasional hostile encounters with other humans. A lot of babies and their parents died in childbirth. Also, like, everyone had parasites, and no one brushed their teeth or had deodorant. Well, anyway, it wasn't easy, but it was equally shared. It's also worth pointing out that hunter-gatherers did not, and do not, in places where they still live this way, work as much as you think they did. A typical hunter-gatherer work week is something like 15 to 20 hours or so, spread out over the entire week. And gathering provided more volume of food than hunting, which means that work was mostly searching for fruit, vegetables, insects, herbs, and so on. The rest of the time is spent just, talking, gossiping, cooking, making new tools, creating art, telling stories, planning for the future, raising kids, falling in love. Human stuff. For full context, this hypothesis has been criticized because the 15 to 20 hour estimate does not account for other tasks, like looking for firewood or shelter, and does not consider cooking work. However, even if you count search for other resources and cooking, you still end up with a number of around 40 hours a week spread out over 7 days, which is still much less than humans spend now at work combined with household chores. You might think that life drastically improved with the advent of agriculture, but actually for a pretty long time it kind of got much worse. Gathering is a pretty chill form of work. Speaking from vaguely similar personal experience in field classes, and as someone with broken as fuck joints, it is much more enjoyable to just walk around for 5 hours chatting with people while you look for plants than it is to weed a vegetable garden or plant potatoes. While farming brought more stability and more food, it also required way more work, and seriously reduced the quality of nutrition and health. The diet of a hunter-gatherer is really diverse, and the diet of an early farmer is severely limited and often nutrient deficient. The marker of transition from gathering to farming, as gleaned from human remains, is seen in shorter lifespans, increased injuries, and worn down joints. It isn't very clear why we transitioned to agriculture in the first place. It's possible that it's kind of a closed loop, in the sense that it is much easier to cross from gathering to farming, if you know how to do it obviously, than it is to go back from farming to gathering. The initial increase in calories produced through farming leads to an increase in population, and once you have all these kids to feed, you can't go back to gathering since you wouldn't have enough food to go around. And over several generations, the knowledge and the skill is lost as well. You need to know a lot to be a successful gatherer, and if you've only been taught from childhood how to farm, well, you don't have fucking Skillshare to learn from, is what I'm saying. Basically, once you get going with farming, you kind of can't really stop. Some scientists even name this transition the worst mistake of human history. However, even in the more labor-intensive and harsh conditions of pre-feudal farming communities, there weren't really such a thing as disability. People maintained networks of close relations, and there were ways for people with impairments to contribute to the community. We have evidence of accommodations, things like wheelchairs for example, that are many centuries old. Since work was tied to need, not to profit, any sort of occupation that was seen as valuable would be supported. You didn't have to work the fields if you couldn't physically do it. You could be a weaver, or a cook, or a healer, or a storyteller. Once again, life was hard and sucked in many ways, but the burdens were shared according to people's ability to handle them. Even in feudal societies, your individual ability level didn't matter that much. Whatever the lord demanded of the people, the price was almost always paid collectively. If the entire village was doing okay, then it didn't really matter how much food you produced as an individual. And if it wasn't doing okay, well, one person wouldn't be able to fix that anyway. The workday was not externally controlled. Yes, farming is incredibly hard work and requires way more than a few hours a day you need for gathering, but that's during the growing season. In Europe, up to half a year was no good for any farming, so people used to spend a lot of time just chilling, I guess. And if you sum up the hours a farmer worked under a feudal lord in 1 year, hilariously enough, it still does not add up to a 40-hour work week. To summarize, up until the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution, some things were arguably kind of better than they are now, and a lot of things sucked. But they sucked more or less in equal measure for everyone, and disability, as a form of societal discrimination, didn't really exist. And then...
Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the
capitalism
attacked.
Oh my god. Okay. Number one,
Yes.
I'm so glad not to be the biggest mistake in human history anymore. That's good to find out.
So happy for you.
Thank you. That was amazing. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I really liked that, and it made me somebody who doesn't need our help, but a good companion piece to this is Trey the Explainer did a video about disabilities in prehistory, because we actually have a lot of like human remains of people with disabilities from prehistoric times, and it reminded me that there's this like mummy of this little, well, not little girl, I think she was about 20 when she died. She had like pretty severe disabilities, and they found that her teeth were like partially rotted out because her family kept bringing her like dates, because they wanted her to like have a special little treat, so they just brought her dates until she got cavities. It's very sweet. And also another thing that popped up is they were talking about the switch from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to agriculture. This kind of video is supremely my shit. There's a theory that one of the because early agriculture was really difficult to establish and much more labor intensive than hunter-gathering, and there's a theory that we made the transition because of like fermentation and alcohol, basically. Like, we kind of accidentally discovered how to ferment certain plants, and we're like, fuck, we gotta do this at scale, guys. This is great.
They were right.
I love getting drunk.
What a trade-off. We had to make the mistake, but we also got to get drunk afterwards.
Yeah.
Worth it.
So hard to pick.
Yeah,
No,
so
Sorry, go on.
I'm sorry. So I'm like, I cry very easily, but this one, like, genuinely, I don't know if anybody saw me. I hope not. I genuinely teared up when he was talking about how, like, I don't know. It was very nice. And I really liked the, like, low-key kind of vibe. Like, it felt very much like the kind of like documentary that you might watch in a history class, but like one of the good ones, not the ones where you would, you know, basically like sleep in the back of the class, but one that you would actually like care about. And one of the other things I liked is the sort of structure of it. And again, like I haven't watched the whole video, but I really liked how all of his ideas kind of bled into the next, and there wasn't like a hard transition from idea to idea. And like sometimes you need that kind of transition, but for this one, it was really well structured in a way that almost like narratively the logic just kind of flowed from one idea to the next, and I really liked that.
It's a very good observation. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I 100% agree. I think Murray and I both, and thank you everyone for talking about my cat in the chat. I appreciate that. We both really liked the seamlessness. It flowed very well, and also the humor in it flows very well too. Like I think sometimes we can be a little. I'm using we as like general video essays here, not all video essays, obviously. But we can kind of feel like, oh, we need to put in humor to like keep people engaged, and the humor in this, it just kind of, I don't know, it helped keep your interest, but you didn't really. I was still very invested the whole video. Those little bits of humor were just like a little extra sprinkling on top. And I don't know if you all saw me in the chat there. I was like losing my shit when and then capitalism came. That was so good, and it just flowed in really well. It wasn't obtrusive at all. I'm someone who just stand up, so like I always appreciate the way that people can put humor in their videos in a very seamless way. Oh, and yes, Bothered Boy, I will tell Murray that you love him. Thank you.
Yeah, and just a note, because I've glanced at the chat and someone asked what the name of this creator was. This creator is Bootstrap Paradox. But for any of the videos we're doing today, we do have a playlist. You can go after this stream and just click on it and see all of the videos we highlighted and watch them all the way through.
Yeah, for anyone who's new to the chat, that's the easiest way to keep up with whatever video we're watching at any given time. It's going to be in the playlist, and then that is your resource for all of the subscriptions that you're going to have and watching the videos all the way through. No, that was just amazing, and I just everyone once again everyone articulated like this is very interesting, having people who know how the medium works and then discussing the things that they like about how other people do it. I suppose I should have expected that, but I'm still a little bit like, oh, I like when people I respect talk about things in a nerdy way. And I don't really have much that I can add other than, you know, my mantra is always good writing is good company. And that there are so many ways that you can do that. But as long as you're good company, and just Bootstrap Paradox is the best company. It's just like funny, understated, informative, and just like kind of odd, but like on it, like owning the whole situation, like a very, very chill, relaxed ownership of exactly what he is doing and how he is doing it. Yeah. So these are great videos so far. Anyway, there could still be that one bad one per stream. Let's hope not. But we're going to move on to someone who probably doesn't need our help. But then Zoe B comes along. She's like, well,
yes, Zoe.
Got 30,000 views.
No, so listen. So, okay. Our next creator that we are highlighting is Dr. Fatima, and she is just the coolest, and you should go subscribe to her channel immediately. So she messages me on Patreon and basically says like, hey, I've been getting some like weirdly targeted hate comments that are, you know, similar to ones that you've gotten. What do I do? How? And so I talked with her about that, and I checked out her channel, and she had, at the point that she messaged me, and this was the end of August, she had 4,000 subscribers, I believe, and her video that she had just released, I mean, didn't have a ton. It was, you know, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 views. And I watched it and I was like, holy shit, this is like absolutely incredible. So just for a little bit of background on her, she has a PhD in astrophysics, I believe. And a lot of what she does is like science education and engineering education and finding those places where science and social issues overlap, and kind of investigating those. And that's like up my alley. I love that kind of shit. And so I watched this video and I was like, holy cow, like she only has a couple thousand subscribers. She seems really awesome. You know, her production quality is great. I need to share this video. You know, I know that my friends are doing this fuck the algorithm thing. I need to make sure that this video is on the radar. And so I messaged Caelan and they were like, well, why don't you just come on and talk about it yourself? Like, you're welcome to do that. And so I was like, okay, that's great. And then somebody had to go and get COVID, and we had to postpone. And in the meantime, the algorithm has in fact actually been pretty kind to Fatima. And yeah, so now this video has almost 40,000 views, and she has almost, what, I think 13,000 subscribers. So she's a bigger fish now. But yeah. To be fair, when I first brought this up, it was less. But no, I mean she's still a relatively new creator, and just awesome and very cool and very funny. That's it. That's my whole spiel.
I'm super excited for this one. Oh, Mandy's muted. I don't know. Sorry, Mandy, I've been muting you because your keyboard's super loud.
I've been chatting with the chat. I was just saying that Dr. Fatima is in the chat right now, and people have been saying hi, but I wanted to like bring it to everyone's attention. I'll try to remember to mute myself when I'm typing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Neil and Sarah, I just want to let you know that when she first reached out to me, you guys were one of the people that she was like, oh my gosh, and I also love the liberal cook.
Oh.
So just be aware. No dissing here.
Oh no. I just I've never heard of a channel called The Liberal Cook. But I just because I love I'm actually a huge fan. This is one of the ones I have seen in advance of the stream because actually I'm a huge fan. Like Dr. Fatima is amazing. It's just like this is just everyone just enjoy and do go and watch if you haven't heard before and do subscribe. But like Dr. Fatima does not need our help. Like that's going to be a very successful channel. In as much as I can say such things, like I really don't doubt that like as long as she sticks at it, like it's a wonderful channel.
It's very good.
Yes. So one quick thing, she's saying it's pronounced Fatma, like duh. Fatma, just as a little pronunciation thing. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. So
I
Dr.
apologize.
Fatma is a wonderful channel, and we'll probably have a time explaining that to everyone as you grow success. That's going to be a thing you have to do probably forever. But we will be better about it from now on.
Yes.
Shall we watch?
Can we watch? Everybody's been hyping it up, and I'm like, shut up and let me watch the fucking video.
Sorry, go on.
Okay, we're good. Let's do this.
So like I said before, the gist of this paper is that it's trying to show how metrics like citation counts can be used to predict somebody's scientific impact. Which kind of begs the question, how do you measure scientific impact? This is actually a very interesting question. Astronomy is a millennia-old international effort to collectively build a body of knowledge about the universe that we live in. Understanding how a single person contributes to it is no easy task. There are many ways you could approach this question, and many different types of impacts you could think of that different people contribute. Alternatively, you could ignore the interesting questions and nuances here and do what Cormandy did. Basically, he picked two groups of people. The first was a group of 22 voters, and the second was a group of 510 subjects. The 22 voters were astronomers that Cormandy hand-selected as experts in the field. And these 22 excellent astronomers were asked to vote on the impact of the 510 people in the other group. A few notes on these two groups. Of the 22 voters, most of them were American, and almost all of them were old white guys, with the youngest being in their 50s and plenty of them being well into their 80s. You know, people who really have their finger to the pulse. The cutting edge. Also, Cormandy himself was one of the voters. Talk about unbiased. It's wild how many times this guy makes an appearance in his own paper, isn't it? As for the 510 astronomers, I think the important thing to note about them for now is that they did not consent to being in this study. More on that later. So how did the 22 geriatric superstars rate the 510 mere mortals? Honestly, this is one of my favorite parts of this garbage fire of a research paper. I introduce you to the genius scale. Well, that's not what he calls it. He calls it the Landau Richter scale. But the thing he's basing it off of is literally called the genius scale. Basically, it's a scale from 1 to 8, with 1 being the bestest specialist Nobel Prize winners, 2 being the more run-of-the-mill Nobel Prize winners, all the way down to 8 for the people who aren't involved in research anymore, presumably because they got sick of the field's fetishistic obsession with Nobel Prize winners. So what else do we have here? 3 is for the top movers and shakers, 5 is a normal successful career, and 7 is for people who used to do lots of research, but have since started focusing on non-research contributions. And I think that last one really starts to indicate some of the problems with this scale. Presumably, this is supposed to rate how an individual has contributed to advancing the collective knowledge of the field, right? But it incorrectly assumes that publishing papers is the only way to do that. If you're a great teacher who has inspired students to go on and do research, you have indirectly contributed to the advancement of the field. If you mentor young scientists and they publish work, you have advanced the field. If you create opportunities for people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to do research, you have increased participation in the field. If you help create laws that increase access to STEM education, help researchers at a laboratory unionize, or become a public figure who challenges the societal expectations of who is and who isn't a scientist, you are broadening the possibility for people to do the kinds of research that Cormandy is narrowly defining as having an impact. Science might study vacuums, but it doesn't exist in one. To put this into perspective, if you put Carl Sagan's citation count into Cormandy's machinery, he'd barely have an impact score of 4, barely above a normal successful career. Keep in mind that countless astronomers today were inspired to do what they do because of Sagan's public-facing work, meaning his non-research work. Surely any good measure of impact should be able to see that that's more than the normal successful career, right? Even if we were to adopt Cormandy's deeply individual definition of impact, it's still rife with problems. A big one being the assumption of inherent and static brilliance. There's this idea in education of what's called fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Basically, someone with a fixed mindset thinks that things like intelligence and ability are static and inherent, whereas somebody with a growth mindset thinks people can grow. Knowledge can be taught, skills can be learned, and a person's ability at something can increase. Rather than try to argue which of these two mindsets I think is correct, I'm just going to show you a study that found that the racial achievement gaps in courses taught by more fixed mindset faculty were twice as large as the achievement gaps in courses taught by more growth mindset faculty. Furthermore, disciplines with a higher cultural emphasis on innate brilliance have lower proportions of women. Unless you think physics somehow demands more sheer genius than something like neuroscience, I'd point out that the neuroscientists probably know a little bit more about how intelligence works. And let's not even pretend that these guys can be objective judges of brilliance. We all know that implicit bias is still a thing, right? Lab managers consistently rate men as more competent, hireable, and deserving higher salaries than women with identical applications. Professors are more willing to mentor white students than students of other races with identical credentials. And just in case that you think the voters were trying really extra hard to be objective, a person who believes they're making objective judgments of somebody else's ability is actually more likely to make decisions based on stereotypes. Bias is kind of like a Chinese finger trap. If you try to brute force your way out of it, it's just going to squeeze harder. Do we really think these guys are somehow immune to all of that? I actually know a couple of these guys, and I don't want to say that they're bad people or anything. I really don't think that. But the idea that they could unbiasedly rank hundreds of astronomers is funny to me. In conclusion, this whole genius scale thing is deeply subject to the biases of the voters, trying to simplify a highly complex and dynamic thing like ability or intelligence and it completely ignores the many ways that people can contribute to a field that aren't just publishing research papers. But rather than challenge these factors that have been proven to create inequity, Hormandy reifies them, reducing his subjects' achievements to a single static number. On a scale from Morty Smith to Rick Sanchez, how much of a genius are you?
So good.
So good.
That was so
So
good.
good.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
good.
god.
Very good.
By the way, chat was losing its mind over just how amazing the Good Doctor's aesthetic was. Like, everyone
my
was
God,
like, oh my
yes.
god, that mic. Oh my god,
Yes.
the background. Like, everyone was loving all of that.
I'm immediately throwing out everything in my room and everything I bought to film and completely copying this style. And nobody can stop me.
It was kind of everything, right? It was every single thing.
Yeah.
Is like, okay, that voice is very good. Obviously, like, it's an amazing look. The room looks amazing. The mic technique, come on.
Yes.
And then it's like, just absolutely fascinating, horrifying, and completely solid. I don't know how much work. Because and then like unimpeachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then doing the thing of just like, I actually know some of these. I was like, oh yes, yes, really good video essaying.
It's like it's a perfect quintessential video essay, and there was some fantastic. She did a really good job of saying something and then explaining it in that kind of more like quote unquote more simplified way.
Thank
so
you.
saying things like, you know, science. What did she say that I was like snapping at? It was something about scientific research. It can study vacuums but doesn't exist in one, I think was the one that she said. And I was just like, yes, it was so good. It was so good. And the Chinese finger trap comparison, that was also really good. Like, I love a good analogy. I'm sure Zoe has feelings about that too.
And it was so funny.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yes.
You picked a good one. Everybody's doing such a good job of picking videos.
One thing that I want to point out about at least the last three so far, because I've forgotten to say it on every one except this one, everyone's captions have been on point.
Yes.
So, like, nobody is doing the like default captions. Everybody is actually like putting in their own captions with proper like punctuation and stuff to get it across. That's great. I don't know. It always is nice to see that.
For anybody who like is in the chat and isn't aware, like that's something that creators have to do manually. They can just let it auto-generate, but otherwise we're all sitting there going through YouTube's not super great, very time-intensive system of like linking up our own captions to the video.
It's horrible.
We need to take the time to like. I don't know. I mean, it's people taking the time to make their content accessible for free, and it's, yeah. I always appreciate when people have done it too.
I have a little hot tip about that. The new version, if anybody uses Premiere, like Adobe Premiere, you can do it inside of Premiere Pro now. So as I'm editing, I can go through and change the captions, which also means if you're looking for a specific part of the video, you can Control F a specific word and find the place in the video you were trying to get to. Not to like shill for Adobe or whatever, but like you don't actually have to pay for it. But yeah, that makes things a lot easier than sitting there at the end of a video and doing it and being like, I just want this fucking video out and now I need to spend 6 hours watching my stupid face talk again.
It has been an actual like lifesaver.
Yes.
The Premiere auto or the like Premiere generated captions. Definitely recommend if that is the software that you use.
It's also great if you have a partner who will do it for you like I do. That's also my pro tip.
Well, we're not all fucking Mandy. I meant like as like an adjective, not a verb.
Either way.
The chat goes wild. Yes. Okay. What was that video again? Oh yeah. Oh no, it was the captions. You know what? We actually didn't base our decision. I don't think anyone based their decision on whether or not the captions were good. But I think it shows the degree of care of the people that we happen to pick. All would also care about that thing and other things that might be might go under other people's radar. So shall we move on to another video?
Yeah, it's yours, Neil.
Oh well, it happens to be me. Oh, how exciting! Yeah, I just thought I wanted to pick like just something wholesome, something small, almost like just something like, you know, like what are the chances that people are going to come across the channel Shrub Dryad? But it was love at first sight, and I will defend Shrub Dryad to the death. This is a very, very charming video where it's just, I mean, like, I think a self-described, like, regular mom who is talking about explaining, like, it's basically, it's the old question of, like, how will I explain this to my kids? Men getting married? People changing gender? Sex? How do I explain anything to my children? And she just, like, goes through thing by thing by thing, just, like, real gentle, real like it's just tremendous. It's so wholesome. And I think we should just get right into it.
Okay, let's see if I can make this full screen work from the beginning.
It's called In Case They Need to Come and Tell You an Awful Story About Something That Happened to Them at School. These are things you have to think about as a parent. Another really good way to do this is to use anatomy toys, like puzzles or magnet sets that you can find online. When my oldest was a toddler, we got this pair of wooden puzzles that have stacked layers. One has typical boy anatomy, the other has typical girl anatomy. There's a skeleton layer, an organ layer, a muscle layer, a skin layer, and a clothing layer. And this makes it extraordinarily easy to bring up any number of topics while you play with the puzzles. We would review the names of the sex organs along with the other body parts. And we would expand it beyond just that. I would talk about how the two puzzles were almost identical, except for the groin area and the clothing. And we talked about how some people wear different kinds of clothes than what these dolls are wearing. We talked about how people have different skin colors than the ones that are shown here, different hairstyles, different shapes to their body, different sizes of their body. We talked about how some people don't have 2 arms, some people don't have 2 legs or 2 eyes or 2 kidneys, some people don't have a uterus. Some people have parts of both kinds of sex organs. And these were fun conversations. They were breezy, they were simple for me to have, and they prepared my kids for all kinds of body differences so that the first time they ever thought of the concept of somebody not having a nose, it wasn't at the grocery store in front of a guy without a nose. Mommy, why doesn't that guy have a nose? It laid the foundation for future conversations about sex and gender. And I'll interject here. If your kid does ask you about stuff in the grocery store, it is rough, and you should sit down and write yourself a script for what you're going to do in that situation, because you will not be able to think. My script is something like, if your kid says, "Mom, is that a boy or a girl?" you can say something like, "That's a person buying their groceries just like us." And then talk about it more later when the other person doesn't have to listen to you do it. That kind of thing is great because it works for all kinds of situations. It also works for, why is that person in a wheelchair? And why is that lady smoking? Doesn't she know it's bad for you? Trust me, it will happen. Prepare. Also, a quick shout out to these 2 books. It's So Amazing and It's Not the Stork. I especially like this one, It's Not the Stork. They're just really good, really thorough, healthy, cheerful books about bodies, and they make passing references to same-sex relationships. And honestly, I could do with more, but it's easy for me to add more, especially when I have the jumping off point of it actually being in the book. I can take a second and explicate to my heart's content. They're not perfect. They do contain the incorrect statement that all boys have XY chromosomes and all girls have XX chromosomes, which turns out not to be true. But knowing that, again, I can just add it in however much feels appropriate to the time and place. Or I could just drop in saying, this is usually true, it's not always true, and we can come back to it later. Now, my second piece of advice might be awkward to do on purpose, but just being honest, one of the things that has made it the easiest for me to have these conversations about gender and sexuality with my kids is just having LGBT people in our life. My kids know about non-binary pronouns because we have people who use them in our house, and my kids just know how to say they, them because they have practiced on real people, and they primarily know those real people for how fun they are and what kind of good jokes they make and how they play with the kids. My kids know about gender transition because somebody in my family did it, and we talked about the name change, and we talked about all the things that weren't going to change. My kids know about same-sex relationships because a couple I'm close with has a kid their age. It's not particularly hard to explain these things when you can just point to a person that they already know and like and say, like them. And, okay, well and good, but I don't have any LGBT friends, what am I supposed to do? Maybe read a book together that has an LGBT character, or watch a show together like Steven Universe, or Owl House, or She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. You can still have somebody positive to point to and say, like that person. Okay, so for my third tip, let's just get really practical. You've done the anatomy stuff all your kids' life, they know where babies come from, things are normal, you're at home, you're not in public, nobody who's going to be offended by anything is around, and your kid comes up to you and says, Mom, what's... What are you gonna do? There are a lot of potentially right ways to handle this. I like to start with, that's a really good question. I'm really glad that you asked me. Some kids go around just saying these things to their friends without knowing what they mean, and they can get in really big trouble. It's really cool that you trust me. Or, be less of a dork about it, that's fine. The second thing I like to say is, well, what do you know so far? Because that can give you a lot of guidance as to how much detail you need to go into. You have a lot more freedom to use your own judgment of, what's kid appropriate for their age level. But if some other kid at school was filling their ear with, yes, then you need to be able to deal with that. So start by having them tell you what they think they know, and go from there. This is another area where you can prepare ahead of time and say, okay, if they ask me about this topic, what am I going to say? And it's also okay to say, I want to give you a good answer to this question. Let me think about how to explain. You can just say that, and kids will be like, oh, okay. It's fine. Now, if anything really weird came out when you asked them what they know about it already, you can circle back at the end and say, just out of curiosity, where did you hear about it? And it might be necessary to say, you're not in trouble, I'm just wondering. But you need to stick to that and not actually get them in trouble. Even if there's something that you need to change about who they're hanging out with or what kind of TV they're watching, you really want to maintain the relationship where your kid can bring you questions. Now, my fourth and I think final piece of advice here is just have some perspective. When it comes to having the talk, or better yet, having all the little talks, I think we freak out way too much about this. Kids understand things. I say this as a former kid and as a parent. There are way harder things to talk to your kids about. Grandparents die. Mr. Rogers had a whole episode about divorce. Friends move away. Parents get arrested. Teachers get breast cancer. Schools have mass shooting drills. Schools have actual mass shootings. How am I supposed to explain that to my child? There is nothing scary about the birds and the bees, or the bees and the bees, or the bee birds. All of that is just the world functioning normally. It will not hurt your children to know things. When you get right down to it, the answer to why are those two men holding hands is because they want to. It's not complicated unless we make it complicated.
Oh my god.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I love you, B-Bird.
We're all crying.
Love at first sight.
It was so good.
So as of this morning, that video had 111 views. 111.
That's it?
We need
That's
to fix that.
111
Fix that chat.
really smart people and 8 billion assholes who have not bothered to check it out, which was all us until a second ago.
So that was the submission. So it maybe is a good moment before we gush about how wonderful that was. It's a good moment to remind everyone that if you are a small content creator, that the email for F the Algorithm, which I think is just fthealgorithm@gmail.com. Is it?
It's in the description box too.
It's in the description box. Yeah. So if you want to send us with just the link to your video, your pronouns, and a little bit about why you do what you do. And we will probably eventually recommend it because this is so much fun. Oh my God, we have to do this all the time. I'm definitely coming back to do this again. Yeah, but Shrub Dryad is incredible. It's such good advice, and it's so delightfully presented. And good writing is good company. She's just wonderful company, and she's got some lucky kids.
I wanna hear all of her advice, and then I wanna hang out with her. And if she drinks, I wanna hang out with her drunk. I bet that'd just be great fun. But no, that was so moving, and expertly done. YouTube too, because the stuff was like moving, accessible, and then but like funny and quick and snappy and well edited and just, oh my gosh, undersubscribed.
Yeah.
Wow, everyone should see that.
Yeah.
I loved the advice in that. I loved, like you said, Sarah, very accessible. I think it's more of a complaint that I think that people don't actually engage with this content regularly. Will say about like, oh, it's like too, maybe too high concept or something. And that can be true for some video essays, but like this was very conversational. It feels like you're sitting down and just like having a chat with another parent who's like, if you're a parent and you're coming in and you're going, oh, I don't know how to have these conversations. Just like, oh, well, this is what I do. And it just felt so very wholesome vibes throughout, but just also it just felt very non-judgmental and felt very just so calming and relaxing. And like, yeah, it's hard sometimes, but here's some things I've done. And if you're in a really, really tight bind, here's a way to give yourself maybe like a little bit more time to think about how to answer. And I love that. This is the kind of video I would send to my sister. My sister has a couple of kids, and I know she's working really hard to make sure that her children understand that, yeah, there are gender nonconforming people, there are queer people, there are, all kinds of different experiences out there. And she has to go in public sometimes with her children, as one does. And I know that she's starting to, they're starting to get a little older now. They're starting to ask questions. They're starting to be able to speak better. And these are the kind of things she's going to have to start dealing with more and more. And I know that she's trying to do her best, but I'm sure that she gets a little lost sometimes too, and she's doing her best. So this is the kind of video I would 100% send to her and be like, hey, I think this has some really good advice if this would be helpful to you. I think that's fantastic that someone's making that kind of content.
Yeah, it's really, really desperately needed, and surprisingly sort of straightforward, like tragically kind of. I mean, I think that she has wonderful insight and a brilliant attitude, but it's almost as if she's just set herself to the world a certain way, and it sort of provides all of the answers that she might need. Give the child the credit of their own intelligence, and give yourself time, and give everything a chance to be discussed, and create a safe atmosphere. And it's just endlessly. You could see everyone watching that. It was just like endlessly delightful.
Yeah.
Especially Zoe.
I don't know what you're talking about. I feel like, so I have a lot of things that I want to say, but I can't get into them or I will start crying. So just know wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely.
If it helps, Zoe, I think like most of the chat was right there with you. I saw so many people just like losing their minds. So you're not the only one.
I'm so glad I picked this one. We can all leave a few comments in the comment section, which is also, not is tragically underserved. I think that would only be fair. And I think with a video like that as well, you can see that it's like the blanket in the background, and it's really like stripped back or whatever. And I don't think it's great like thumbnail game. And it just goes to show that a lot of the like bells and whistles of what I remember. Verdi Bitchy describing like having to have a weird collection of skills to be good at this.
Yeah.
Like they don't have anything to do with each other, and sort of the graphic design element or like just this kind of marketing kind of stuff, and it's like it's so antithetical to the sort of like people we are to like be marketing people, depending. So it's good if we can kind of lift someone like Shrub Dryad up and maybe like just stay the way you are because like don't just have like the thumbnails that are like my kids asked me the ultimate question, like what are you supposed to do? Your content is perfect and beautiful, like I please don't change, never change. But actually that leads quite nicely into. So there's an undersubscribed, underwatched channel,
hatefully so,
where it's very stripped back. And our next video, brought to us by Meili Mandy, is really high concept.
It is. So this is what. So we all decided that once per stream, we wanted to have a little nepotism corner, as we're referring to it as. And so this is someone who we all know. I think all of us have worked with them at some point or another, or we've seen them in our chats. I know I've worked with them personally in one of my videos earlier this year. I did a video talking about the sort of like certain terminology terms that come up in polyamory. And this person originally I brought in sort of as a script advisor, and then they just like fucking blew it away with helping me write songs. They like just made music for my video. It was amazing. A very talented person. So I want to shout out Adam from the Anarchy Funhouse. They them pronouns. Adam is absolutely fantastic. You actually may recognize Adam. They were in Neil and Sarah's fantastic video about the metaverse. They played what was the character name? The editor, right?
The editor.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're vaguely familiar with Adam. Yes.
Yes, we sort of know them. And they are somebody who at time of this is like what, a little over 1,000 subscribers. And Adam, as you're going to see, Adam has fantastic quality in their productions, and makes so much of what they do. They make their sets. They do all of this stuff. Most of it anyway. I know occasionally they hire other people to help out, but like it's absolutely incredible. So like just everyone get hyped, because you were about to hear see a really amazing, talented creator who more people definitely should be aware of.
Not to like horn my toot or anything, but a lot of times people will leave a comment being like, wow, the production quality on your channel is amazing. And I'm like, have you seen the Anarchy Funhouse? Because my channel is garbage compared to that. It's seriously so fucking good. So yeah, here we go. I'm so excited.
Jump right in.
Oh, no. Starting it again.
Hi guys, it's another beautiful night here at Samba K's only 24-hour shopping channel. It's time for me to turn you onto a few of the inescapable deals here at the TAF. I'm Angela Deb Downerson, your host for the next couple of hours. Now let's get started. Are you feeling hopeful? Still think everything's gonna work out? Just cause? Well, I have a product for you that might help get rid of some of that silly and frankly unhelpful hope. The state of the oceans. Look at that. Less than a century of using the oceans as our own personal toilet has transformed it into an ecological and climate time bomb. That's because the oceans have absorbed over 90% of the excess heat energy from human-emitted greenhouse gases since the 1970s. And without the oceans acting as a planet-sized heat sink, the Earth would have warmed over 30 degrees Celsius in the same time period instead of a measly old 1.2 degrees. And as the oceans heat up, storms get supercharged, sea levels rise, and dead zones expand. But wait, there's more. Did you know that the bottom of the marine food chain is in jeopardy? Phytoplankton are microscopic algae. Besides being the base of the aquatic food web, they also produce about half the oxygen in the atmosphere. When they die, most sink to the ocean floor, taking with them as much CO2 as all the terrestrial plants on Earth. But because the oceans are absorbing all that excess heat, the normal circulation of organic matter, oxygen and carbon dioxide, which is critical for maintaining marine ecosystems, is breaking down, creating a cap of warming water at the surface and keeping nutrients phytoplankton need to become trapped in the lower, cooler layers, starving them of food. And without phytoplankton to generate oxygen, trap carbon, and provide sustenance to the entire marine food chain, well, we'll end up with a dead, empty world. But it gets worse. The oceans warm slowly from the top down, so even if greenhouse gases cease to be emitted, the oceans will continue to absorb heat for decades and possibly centuries until they finally reach equilibrium with the atmosphere, sealing our long-term future in an ever-warm and potentially inhospitable world. And you're probably asking yourself, how much for this hope-crushing reality?
Oi, you can't hide from me.
Angela, my dear, it doesn't come off.
Oh, of course it doesn't, Boppity. How could it? I can't find her!
Angela, focus. You were getting ready to say how much the state of the oceans cost.
That's right. Well, okay. It's only the cost of our future. Shipping and handling, not included.
Wow.
So good.
It truly needs to be its own TV show on Netflix.
Absolutely.
100%.
If only that was how they talent scouted.
Taking our recommendations.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just think that like Adam is human proof that there's no such thing as meritocracy. Because like if it was purely based on talent and ability and hard work, then it would be like, okay, well then surely they would be the ruler of the universe. So,
yes.
So yes, and I don't say that just because I was the voice of Boppity. It is nepotism corner after all. Yeah, it's incredible, but it always kind of does leave you like a little bit like fucking hell. It leaves you a little bit stunned and I think compelled to action. Moved. Yeah. It's again doing the thing that a lot of video essays don't do, which is really speaking with real urgency. No fucking around, just absolute urgency. So and yet at the same time, all of the art dials are turned up to 12. I don't, it's a very interesting blend. I think it pushes the video essay audience out of their comfort zone, and to me that's a good thing. But I can see how it's like it's an uphill battle then, Incredible work.
We talk about Adam behind their back all the time in our other chat, just to be like, what is happening? Why aren't there more subscribers? And my response is always like, I don't think everyone wants art. I think some people just want like somebody to do a dunk and tell them their opinion on something. Maybe like something to put on while they're like doing the dishes or whatever. But this is like, she's theater. You have to like be engaged, which is why I love it, because that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, this is like, sorry. I was going to say, this is definitely the kind of video where I don't do other things. Like there are some video essays I'll put on the background while I'm doing other things. Like I had Jesse Gender's new video playing actually while I was getting set up before we started stream today, right? Because that's the kind of thing you can kind of listen to and do other things at the same time. But Adam's videos, you really have to like be watching, because every detail is absolutely incredible, from the music, from the costuming, all the writing, the sets that they make,
Yes.
the puppet. I saw people in this chat being like, "Oh my god, look at this production value." It's like, yeah, Adam does all of that. I think the only thing that we saw in that video that they didn't do was the voice of Boppity, which was Neil, and the animation I believe was done by somebody else. But everything else you saw, that's all Neil. Sorry, that's all Adam. Sorry, that's all Neil. It's just such a fantastic level of talent and production value, and just everyone in the chat, you better go subscribe to Adam right now, or you're banned. I will ban you from the chat. Damn it. I'll go mad with power.
I mean, it would just be your loss, but it's like it would be a big loss because Adam's stuff is so. I think it's very rare to have something that it's not even that it's just art. It's like informative art, and it drives you to action, which I think is really because I have trouble engaging with a lot of climate stuff because of the doomerist attitudes that can pervade. And Adam's stuff doesn't pull any punches, but at the same time it makes me feel like, I don't know, it's not doomerist the same way.
Yeah, it's urgent. It's urgent.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that sort of it's not liberal. It is absolutely not a liberal position, and that's quite challenging. That's challenging beyond just climate. I think Adam is right to, that climate is the most important, the most important thing any of us could be thinking about at any one time. But at the same time, I think that sense of urgency is inspirational in and of itself. To when you talk about other things, to remember that actually these are there's real stakes here, and again, for a lot of people, they just want the video that's like the thing about Seinfeld, and then the thing about Seinfeld is it's a sitcom from the 90s that had Jerry Seinfeld in it. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever. That's a great video essay, well done. And Hoots, you were in that one as well, right? But just like a tiny bit. You were in, yeah. I feel like there's spoilers for what.
I did feel like a voiceover.
Yeah, but you can't tell us anymore.
No, watch the rest of the video.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't come in until the end, so you're gonna have to watch the whole thing. It's only 17 minutes.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The fact that they can fit all of that into, that video specifically, at least, a 17-minute video is just, I don't know. So my experience with Anarchy Funhouse, I haven't actually worked with Adam directly, though. Adam, I know you're in the chat. Hit me up if you ever want to do that. But I find it sort of like some of you have been saying, I find it kind of difficult to watch the videos sometimes because they're so much, and they're especially as a creator, seeing just how incredible of a creator Adam is, and just how, like we've been saying, the production values and the acting and the visuals and just everything. And it's I feel like the Anarchy Funhouse is sort of the pinnacle of what that kind of video essay is. That's it. That we know what the top tier is, and it's that. And so, I mean, I don't know, it's always very inspiring also to watch, because it's, sometimes as a creator you get stuck in your own bubble, and you need to see someone pushing the boundaries in order to realize I could, why don't I try some of this weird stuff that this other person is doing? And so it's always very inspiring. But yeah, just top tier.
I think inspiring is the exact right word. I will gush about Adam's channel to literally anyone who will listen, but whenever I finish a video, I'm like, oh my god, I have so many ideas, which is not something that usually happens after I watch a video on YouTube. Usually I'm like, that was a video on YouTube that I had watched. Yeah, I know I've said obsessed 3 times, but I am this is one of my favorite channels. This is like one of the only channels, like other than the people that are like right here and like Mika, that as soon as the video goes live, I am like, if I'm holding a baby, I'm throwing it on the ground and running to my computer.
Thankfully, you're not very likely that you'll be holding
never.
a baby. Yeah, no, I actually, I mean, we could gush about Adam forever. I will try to cap it off just by saying that actually I almost have the opposite reaction where because for me it tempers me, because like Zoe pointed out, it's like that's it. Adam reminds me that I'm an orator, because I'm like, if I was just like going to go full jazz storytelling, I couldn't do what they do. So I must remember that actually I do like to stick to video essays at least a little, you know. And it was an amazing discovery to make. Actually, I think Adam like just commented on a couple of our videos, and then we infected the rest of you with this wonderful, strange channel.
I believe you told me, you're like, Sarah, I found like a video essayist that's
worse than me.
No, you're like, if you weren't a Czech, I could do this. I'm sorry.
If it wasn't for you, this is what I'd be doing. It's like, no, I would be doing a crap version of what Adam is doing. But
no, because Adam is like perfect.
Yeah.
It is legitimately technically perfect.
Yeah.
Like not totally random, but like I always notice like very specific things when I'm watching videos that like involve like post-production, and just like the specific moment where the hand goes down the tank in like a display way, but then the red tint comes down with it, and it was like so perfectly timed with the hand movement. I'm like, this is I know that's like a weird thing to be like, this is my favorite part of the video, but that's usually how I pick things out. Like I noticed that immediately. It was so good.
Yeah, it's clockwork. It's clockwork craftsmanship. Yes, so they're wonderful, and as we have pointed out, sometimes because we're learning and discovering together, sometimes the algorithm is not in your favor because you're too challenging. Because you take months to make a perfect video, and then you present this extraordinary piece of art to the world, and again YouTube replies and says, but this isn't dunking and going, there are 8 million. You're not doing the thing properly, and that can be an issue. But also another reason why videos won't necessarily do tremendously well if left entirely to artificial intelligence is because of marginalized creators. Mandy mentioned Jesse Gender's most recent video, which has been through some journeys, while the Daily Wire's material that it is a reply to remains largely unchallenged, because dudes with beards, no problem. I'm just gonna say a bunch of stuff, I think, and it can be as hateful as anything. And then a trans person creates something. It's like, is this porn? Is this sexualized content? We need to take this down immediately. YouTube is very, very smart. So we have another marginalized creator that we want to
really quick before we jump into the next one. I don't know. I just came back. I had to run to the bathroom really quick. We got a $50 donation from Bothered Boy, actually, in the chat that says, this is a great first stream with great hosts, good vibes and vids all around. Well done, everyone. So thank you to Bothered Boy. That's very sweet. That money probably will be just honestly put back into us being able to maybe, I don't know, do more production value on this, or maybe we can forward it to the creators themselves. I'm not sure what we're going to do. We hadn't really talked about that. We didn't know we would get any money.
I think we did.
Or did we? I thought we were picking a charity to...
okay.
Yeah.
Now that you said that, I remember.
Which we hadn't done yet because I don't think we thought we were going to get anything for the first... So I guess we'll have to have a meeting afterwards, decide, and then from here on out, we'll probably we'll have one in advance. We were thinking of picking like charity organizations near and dear to our hearts, and then rotating through.
It's incredibly kind of you, Bothered Boy. Another channel well worth checking out, and a friend of all of the channels here. And yeah, we did not expect to be or getting anything for this. Is just our project where we're supposed to just be grifting, in fact, on other people's content. That's the idea. We're hopefully not going to do that. And Sarah has another video to present for us.
And I have another video to present. Yeah, so we can, I don't know, we will keep you updated with where that money will be donated to, and maybe put receipts on Twitter or something along those lines. Yeah.
So I'm cutting across you after introducing you straight away, because I should point out actually that this stream will be ultimately available on the F the Algorithm channel, which is another channel that it's probably the most important channel to subscribe to, because it's your gateway to the other channels. And we're going to try and get this thing off the ground, and it will probably be your central repository for information like that, where when the next stream is going to be, and what random charity we've picked, and that's so.
Okay, we just got another one. Sorry. We just got another one. It's starting. Amelia Fletcher gave us $5, and then just wrote, "Just so you have to do more administration with a smiley face."
This is on my channel, so all that work is mine now, I guess. So thank you, and thank you.
Amazing.
Okay. Well, so this person's channel, so Jose Maria Luna, I saw this video, and then I went and watched every video that he's ever done. And this one I watched twice because I kept changing which section I thought we should highlight, and then I had to message everyone and be like, okay, it's longer than the section we said we'd do, but like, please, because I don't. So his stuff is fantastic. It's another person who I'm looking at going like, how does this person not have so many subscribers? And this video in particular is about it's decolonizing adventure. And the first half of it is like a summary of films, and it gets really into like the way different tropes from South America are like presented in films. And then it gets into more concrete film analysis later on, and we're skipping, I believe, to that part. But it's snarky, and it's funny, and it's analytical, and it's really, really good. I think he's an incredibly talented creator. So,
also super excited for this one. Everybody
just got another donation as well, I think.
Oh my god!
Did we?
We did. Yeah. We got $50 from Pim, from Pim's Crypt, who is another fellow small creator who's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't want to interrupt again.
Okay, but we're gonna watch our amazing creator.
Part 5: Adventures in Colonialism. Exploring and adventuring have always been a part of written fiction, which is why there was already a long tradition of adventure by the time cinema was born. However, it was arguably the influence of Jules Verne that more than anything created what we now know as the adventure film. Le Voyage dans la Lune, one of the most famous and influential movies of early cinema, was in part an adaptation of Jules Verne's From the Earth to the Moon. The adventure movie was soon defined as a story in which our protagonist has to leave their home behind and set off to exotic, faraway lands in order to fulfill a goal. These two elements, the setting and the goal, would become key defining aspects of a good adventure movie. What these would be in the emerging cinematic art form would be defined by the historical context in which film came to be. The exploration boom of the late 19th and early 20th century is sometimes referred to as the golden age of archaeology. Western discoveries of places such as Babylon, Machu Picchu, and King Tutankhamun's tomb brought with them romantic ideas of exploration of the ancient world as well as its consequences. The deaths of some of the explorers involved in the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb, for example, inspired ideas of a curse, bringing an added element of mystic danger. The mysticism surrounding archaeology was only heightened by the Nazi expeditions to find places such as Atlantis, as well as the research across the world to prove Aryan superiority.
You're beginning to understand Hitler's interest in this. Oh, yes.
That boom around the turn of the century, especially when contrasted with technological advances, sparked a sense of excitement. These were the last few breaths of the undiscovered world. So, if you take that cultural mysticism surrounding all these ancient people, as well as the dawning realization that there was little of the real world left to discover, you get the groundwork for the classic adventure movie. I've come up with 3 tenets of what makes an adventure movie, and what better way to look at them than through the archetypical explorer himself, Indiana Jones. Number 1. Quests for culturally significant artifacts, often ones that have been lost to civilization. Across his 4 movies, Indiana Jones searches for the Ark of the Covenant, a Shiva Linga, the Holy Grail, and El Dorado. 3 of these are important religious artifacts, while the 4th is a culturally significant myth. Getting these artifacts cannot be easy though, so in order to get them, our adventurer needs to defy traps and warnings. How do they do that? Well, knowledge. There is a reason the antagonists often need the hero to do things for them. They don't know how to get these artifacts, but our hero does. A common trope is that they often know more than the locals about their own culture. Number 2, exotic locations and cultures which are to be both revered and mocked. Indiana Jones looks for things that are important to history and culture. He's a professor, that's what his deal is. There is admiration for the skill, craftsmanship, and culture of these people, but at the same time, they're also savages. They're ignorant and primitive, and they need to know better. This is particularly evident in Temple of Doom, which is a textbook white savior story in which Indiana Jones has to stop the cruel native rituals, free the child slaves, and return the missing relic to the poor village. This obviously gives way to a lot of racism, which, as we saw earlier in terms of depiction of indigenous people, it is fairly common in the genre. In order for these places to be exotic, they need to play into people's preconceptions of them. They eat gross things and engage in weird religions and are no match for Western superiority. Number 3, not colonizing, but discovering. Textbook colonizers don't make good heroes in fun adventure romps, at least not if the audience has a conscience. That's why heroes in adventure movies are often explorers, researchers, archaeologists, historians, professors. They are scientists of some sort in search of fact. Colonizers are often the villains, if anything. Of course, science has come with its own form of colonialism, especially when plagued by outsider observer bias. When Indy says, "That belongs in a museum!" he says so with the intention of preserving the cultural artifact for the sake of science. However, he is making that decision, not the culture to which the artifact belongs to. The British Museum stealing things from all over the world is just as colonialist as British control over a territory. And that is not to mention that the idea of contact with these cultures, however scientific, never considers one of the most important principles of indigenous liberation, the right to self-determination and to contact on their own terms. Interestingly enough, though, Indy's arc, no pun intended, in The Last Crusade, the best Indiana Jones movie,
no ticket,
is about realizing that not everything belongs in a museum.
Let it go.
And he comes to accept that once the artifact in question is a Christian one belonging to his own culture. Now, these literal cultural appropriation, racist exotization of foreign cultures, and colonialist undertones sure sound bad now. So if these are the tenets of the adventure genre, then is it just rotten to the core? Westerns, a genre with similar baggage, had to extensively transform in order to be palatable for audiences again. Should adventure have to do the same, or must it go away? Why don't we go deeper, all the way to the stories that people first compare Indiana Jones to upon release? Part 6. Decolonizing Adventure.
Holy shit.
I know, so good.
So good.
So good.
That is one that I did watch because Sarah was like, everybody needs to fucking watch this now!
By the way, during as that was starting up, we got more super chat. So like super quick. Thank you to, I think this is $20 from. It cuts off the name. I can't read the whole thing. It's maybe Donovan. Maybe I'm not sure. 5, and it was just a little sticker that says "Thanks for being you." It's really cute. We got $5 from Vince Whitaker, who I've seen you before.
We know
in chats
Vince.
before. Lol, I'm a stick it to Caelan too. And then we had 25 from Infernal Ramblings that said, "Thank you for raising up these creators and building community." And then $5 from Bethany, that's me, which says, "Because I'm one of those who needs to belong, does that make me a pick-me? Seriously though, this is fantastic. Thank you all. So much." And we just got another one. God damn it. $10 from the Silver Samaritan. Hi, Samaritan. Forgot I have some money this month. Looking forward to catching up with these channels. Thanks. Little heart emoji. So thanks, everybody.
That's so
These
nice.
are some old friends in the chat, and it is very, very kind. and kind of unexpected because we're
Yeah.
really in this for for spreading the word on people like Jose here. But like it's absolutely wonderful. Also, I love that Mandy is not only a nepotism corner, but you've also kind of and you're taking care of the chat, but now you've kind of become the chancellor as well. Like you're having to deal with all of the dirty business.
Thank you, Mandy.
I guess so.
Thanks,
It's the least I can do. I honestly felt like I didn't do a lot of work in terms of like looking through videos or anything. So I'm happy to take on this part and provide cats too. So.
I'd love. I think somebody said in the chat that like they're looking forward to catching up on that entire channel's back catalog, and I think that is the feeling you get where it's like, oh, I've discovered a classic or a great here. You know, I've discovered one that's like, I bet they're all really consistent. I bet they're all, and they are. Right?
They're right. That he has one on like the most recent one I watched was like one on Who Framed Roger Rabbit and the history of like public transportation, and I was like. I didn't know I wanted to know this, but I
There's
did.
a video about Encanto and 100 Years, which, like,
good.
This is my shit. I'm so excited that I now know that this channel exists.
So
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just saying that the quality was fantastic. Like that, that's right up there with other sort of media analysis type channels. Like I was thinking of sort of like a Lindsay Ellis, even like those bigger channels that we're more familiar with. Like the production value on that was really good. The voiceover was really good. It's very engaging. Also, this is the first video that we've seen so far where someone like filmed outside.
Yeah.
Which it's so weird that it's novel, but I'm like, oh, the outdoors.
I was like, oh, good green screen. And then I was like, no, Caelan, people go outside. Like that.
People go outside.
I thought the same thing.
I was like, that's a good key. That's clean. And I was like, wait, no.
And, like, wow, they're really committing to the bit by wearing a mask, too.
That's exactly what I thought, too. It was like, well, if you're going to do a green screen, I can see wearing a mask. But, like, maybe since you're not actually outside, take it off. And then I was like, wait, hold on.
The fit was great too.
Yeah.
The adventure fit.
Oh my God,
absolutely loved.
obsessed. The little scarf
Uh-huh.
would kill.
All about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The entire time the video was paused, I was just like looking at the fit.
Same.
I need to. Sorry, I'm looking up where to find a white blouse and pants.
Yeah. A reminder once again that you're going to subscribe to that channel now. That's your job, and they're all on the playlist, and that the playlist will be available here on Caelan's channel, but also on the F the Algorithm channel, which you're also going to subscribe to, where you will be able to watch this stream afterwards, and keep up with when we do this again. But excitingly. And also sadly, because it's the last video recommendation, but we're going over to Hoots' Corner now to talk about like cocaine mummies. What is the story?
All right, so I picked this video partially because it's very good and very interesting, and also partially because it's very on brand for me. But there were mummies that were discovered, like Egyptian mummies that were discovered to have like trace amounts of maybe cocaine in them.
That's metal.
And coca leaves don't come from Egypt. They come from South America. So it started a conversation of like, oh, did Egyptians have any kind of transatlantic travel? And Egyptians, like quite famously, did not have the travel bug of all the ancient cultures. They kind of stayed put most of the time. So this is like a really good video by Armchair Egyptology that kind of explores this story and also the looks at like the problem-solving principle of Occam's razor that, you know, people refer to Occam's razor all the time but don't actually like unpack what it really is. So this is kind of like using this like very interesting weird story to employ that kind of like problem-solving principle and explain how it works. And it's been because we originally planned to stream this like a month ago. I can't even remember what timestamp I wanted to do. So
the beginning.
I'm watching this again with my guys. Did I say from the beginning?
Yeah.
Before we get into it, we have one more super chat that just came in while Hoots was talking from, I think it's pronounced Fifor. It's a lot of PHs, so I apologize. As 20 pounds that says, I can't let the British go unrepresented in the super chat. So thank you for your representation.
Okay, wonderful. God save the king. And on to Archer Egyptology. I'm so excited about this one. What a fascinating concept. Go for it.
About 200,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans started spreading out of here and getting all over the place. This was such a long time ago and the world was such a different place that it's hard to imagine. We all have common ancestors that go back varying amounts of time, but there was a man alive about 300,000 years ago that we're all descended from. There was nothing special about him, and there were thousands of other men who still have living descendants, but the thought of humankind being linked in time even though we've spread across the globe and billions of us cannot successfully communicate with billions of others is rather humbling. There was a large gulf of time between our anatomically modern species emerging and civilization forming. With civilization, paleoanthropology begins to give way to history, and since we're all the same species but not all the same culture, it's appealing to try to find strange coincidences, or things that two disconnected cultures have in common. Do these things speak to something intrinsic about human beings? More tantalizingly still, what if ancient civilizations weren't the result of different races randomly spawning on an empty map with no connection to each other? What if transcontinental interaction was a thing divorced from conquest and colonization as we think of it now? To some, the anthropological holy grail would be finding proof of transatlantic contact, and indeed there have been attempts to show that such contact was possible. In 1992, a German research team led by chemist Dr. Svetlana Balabanova revealed something extraordinary. An analysis of Egyptian mummies that showed that in the hair, bone, and soft tissue of those mummies were traces of nicotine and cocaine. For the folks who longed for proof of pre-Columbian contact between Africa and South America, this was more than they could have hoped for. Cocaine and nicotine are derived from plants native to the Americas. Coupled with the idea that a transatlantic crossing was possible, we'll get to that, this seemed too good to be true. Actually, was it too good to be true? Grab a cup of your favourite tea, and let me tell you a story about hope, the value of weighing evidence, and the ability to make logical leaps that cross an entire ocean.
Building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your store on a single integrated.
When asked what piece of evidence could falsify Darwin's model of evolution through natural selection, scientist John Haldane quipped, "Rabbits in the Precambrian." In other words, the discovery of mammalian fossils about 200 million years before the first mammals are presently thought to have lived. A find of that type would be so astounding it would require an astounding explanation. I hardly need to reiterate that the gaps in our knowledge about ancient Egypt will tend to give birth to outlandish theories about the culture and historical events that surround it. Some of these theories are motivated by laziness, the desire to whip out an explanation without any support from the evidence. Some are motivated by worse instincts. Racism explains quite a few reasonably well-known ideas about ancient Egypt, such as aliens constructing the pyramids and the idea of an Arab great replacement that means modern Egyptians were not the descendants of the ancients, or more bizarrely that northern Egyptians are somehow less genetically Egyptian than those who live upriver. Some of these fringe hypotheses, or as we might call them crank theories, are motivated not by a lack of evidence or by willfully ignoring evidence, but by evidence that shows up unexpectedly. Evidence that, at first glance, is very surprising or impossible to put into context. Precambrian rabbits, in other words. In almost all of these cases, the explanation will turn out to be far less sensational than first assumed, because we all like a bit of drama, even in the sciences. Egyptology has been prone to this sort of conclusion leaping, though I don't think more so than any other branch of the humanities. It's just that the ancient Egyptians are subject to an awful lot of misrepresentation in the popular media, and being exoticized because of their very distinctive language, religion, and architecture. We know just enough about them to fill in what we aren't sure of with our own fantasies. A little knowledge really is a dangerous thing. But how do we separate the outlandish theories from the reasonable ones? What makes a theory reasonable? Let's talk about a device we should all be using every day. If I had a sponsor, that would be a fairly reasonable segue into a VPN or something, but no, I'm talking about Occam's razor. This little intellectual tool is often misrepresented as telling us that the simplest explanation is usually correct, but that's not quite it. The point of Occam's razor is to remind us that when explaining a phenomenon, or fitting a piece of evidence into a bigger picture, we shouldn't add complexity to our explanation, or explain beyond what's necessary. If I walk into a room and see an empty bowl of cat food and a happily sleeping cat nearby, then I have a few explanations before me. Maybe my neighbours broke in and ate the cat food. Maybe it was aliens. Maybe ghosts took possession of the meat and are now slapping about the place somewhere making an awful mess. But all of these explanations require me to add new evidence or new phenomena to the world, except for one. My cat, whose food it was, ate it and is now having a well-deserved nap. Until something happens that the most grounded model can't explain, I'm intellectually obliged to choose the simplest one. If I should see a little meat man running around making ghost sounds, then I'm obliged to consider it disruptive to my regressive cats eat cat food model. The difference between limiting complexity when modelling phenomena and accepting the simplest explanation is that simplicity is deceptive. To some, it seems very simple that an advanced alien race could pile stones into a pyramid shape. But in reality, that's actually a very complex theory. First, you need to establish the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations, which we can't. Second, you need to establish their interest in humankind, which we can't. You need to explain why their interest is limited to actually quite mundane accomplishments, and why the Egyptians never mentioned contact with them, and so on and so on. Occam's razor asks us to embrace simplicity, but not laziness. It tells us to resist jumping to conclusions until the evidence opens those conclusions up to us. A pre-Cambrian rabbit fossil would not cause evolutionary biologists to panic. Well, maybe a little bit. It would definitely require a revision of the timeline of evolution as we understand it, or, more likely, a reanalysis of the evidence. Because experimental error, either with the methodology or in the interpretation of the results, probably explains as many weird results as are explained by something actually weird happening. Can the pyramid's existence be explained simply through human ingenuity and tremendous amounts of manual labour? Yes. There's nothing about the pyramids that's so mysterious that only a technologically advanced civilization could have built them. Certainly not an alien one. Now, if tomorrow a visiting tourist accidentally speaks the password that makes the Great Pyramid hover 100 meters off the ground and pulsate with intermittent microwaves, then we'll talk. We all fail to apply Occam's razor from time to time. We're all subject to biases when interpreting evidence. This is especially true in subjects like archaeology, linguistics, and history, where repeated statistical analysis or replication of results is not always possible. But Occam's razor applies even then. It isn't a perfect tool because no tool is perfect once humans lay their hands on it, and it isn't a truth serum that can magically tell us what's true, because there can always be a black swan, a piece of evidence we haven't found that won't fit into our model when we do find it. It's pretty subjective, since its effectiveness is always relative to what each person interpreting the evidence thinks of as a less complex explanation. But it's a template for how to approach unexpected phenomena, and it stood the test of time. So, let's all try to keep the razor in hand as we look at a phenomenal bit of evidence for something that probably never happened.
I joined Uber One because I hate delivery fees and I need to save money for when I get canceled.
Not Sarah Silverman. Okay.
Cocaine is an alkaloid extracted from plants native to South America. It can be extracted through chemical processes, resulting in the cocaine salt that's commonly thought of in recreational circles, and is probably the thing you're picturing right now. It can also be extracted from these plants directly by the human body, and the chewing of coca leaves has been, and continues to be, a central practice of the indigenous cultures in that region. The Inca colonized so much territory in large part because they wished to control as much of the coca-bearing land as possible. This was because of the coca leaf's ability to give people the strength and endurance necessary to engage in tiring physical work for longer than they would have done otherwise. There's even evidence that they recognized its anesthetic properties, and may have used it in that way for surgical purposes. This evidence comes in part from mummies both artificially and naturally created throughout South America. Of course, this continuous use of coca came with a downside. When the Spanish invaded South America, coca was quickly recognized as an intoxicant, and the locals were forbidden from consuming it. Pretty quickly, withdrawal kicked in, and those locals found themselves unable to work as hard. Naturally, the conquistadors, wanting to exploit the indigenous labour and also make a profit, reintroduced coca to the masses and taxed its use. Thus began a cycle of the exploitation of indigenous Americans that has yet to end. Yay. Nicotine is another alkaloid, also a stimulant, but it's a bit more common than cocaine. While it's associated with tobacco, it's also found throughout members of the nightshade family, which contains a huge number of plants that see everyday use, including tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, aubergines, tea leaves, celery. None of these plants possess the chemical in amounts large enough to produce nicotine's psychoactive effects. Some of the ones I've mentioned have as little as 1,000,000 times less nicotine than tobacco. Actually, nicotine's biological function is a clue to why it might have been found on the mummies. I'll get to that in a bit. This video is mostly going to focus on cocaine because, as I've hopefully demonstrated, while nicotine shows up all over the place in various concentrations, cocaine is much less widespread. Nowadays, cocaine is the byproduct of many perfectly lawful extraction practices, and quite a few unlawful ones, and it comes from South America. So imagine the surprise when traces of it were found in the tissues of ancient Egyptian mummies.
Well, now.
That was very
okay.
good and very Hoots. I can
right?
see why Hoots picked it.
Yeah, it's very on brand.
Like, amazing. Yeah.
Really cozy and really like I don't know, just like well produced, very educational.
I love the disclaimer at the moment where it's like, I'm sorry that I accidentally endorsed cocaine. that made me laugh really hard.
Yeah, I love that. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we did get 3 more super chats during that. We had one 5-pound donation from Tony Shanks that said colonizing the chat, which made me giggle. Where was the other one? We got $50 from Questing Refuge. Hi, Willow, who's also a fellow creator, that said, just want to show some support for what you all are doing. It's incredibly heartwarming to see community support like this. Thank you so much. You all should definitely watch Willow's channel. It's very good. And we also got $10 from Ultraviolet Podcast, transferring this month's YouTube check to y'all for building this wholesome and uplifting space, and also because I love making people do tedious paperwork. Thank you, but also kind of fuck you too.
That's very sweet. Yeah, I did not expect this outpouring of generosity.
No.
And I'm glad that everyone is vibing, because I'm vibing.
Yeah.
I'm actually, this is even more tremendous than I thought it would be, because these are such good videos. You all have such good taste. And I had been meaning to catch up on Armchair Egyptology. I don't know why. Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, there you go. You
and they're in the
dumbass.
chat too, by the way. Armchair.
Wonderful. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but they are in the chat too, Armchair, or he's in the chat. I'm sorry, I forgot the pronouns. But
Hi.
I'm like quite interested because I've done archaeology. I did the Nabateans, so not the Egyptians, but neighbors, and like I'm actually like much more unfamiliar with Egyptology than I would like to be. I'm much yeah, besides having like been to Egypt and seen the things, I know very little. So it would be a really good primer. I think I'd really like to catch up.
It's gonna be our new channel. We'll
Yeah,
watch.
we're gonna watch that.
I feel like there's
I mean,
a
I
lot
know
of
all
these. Sorry, go.
Ken, go ahead.
Oh, I just feel like there's a lot of these that I've like every single time I've come across the name, I've been like, right, I need to watch this channel, but then I don't know, I don't really watch YouTube. I might be like the only one here that like doesn't really watch YouTube, but I don't have time. I can't. I'm like, when I do, it's usually making the time for like everyone in this chat. But once I actually watch it and like force myself to sit down and like be exposed to it, I'm like, oh, that's good. Oh, I want more, because like a lot of these are
YouTube thing is really good.
Yeah. I'm like, this is gonna take off. This YouTube thing.
Anybody heard of this?
But now,
how dare you not make room in your schedule where you work 16 hours a day, Caelan, to watch YouTube videos?
This channel is my new one of my new cooking, or like sometimes I like to just put something on, like take a bath and like bring my iPad into the bathroom. This is going to be one of the ones. Everybody has had like a very soothing, calming voice in this stream, which like as someone with like not a soothing, calming voice, I very much appreciate.
So I know the armchair Egyptologist, like outside of this stuff. He actually runs
I know, right?
Well, listen,
You think you're
so
better
I
than
get
us?
my own little nepotism corner. He runs an TTRPG live stream thing that I'm in. But which I can plug that if you want me to.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't know. Okay, so check out the It You Trash Crew on Twitch. They do TTRPGs. I'm in a Blades in the Dark stream. I play a spooky cowboy. Anyway, but I just wanted to say that that's one of my favorite things about his content, is that his particular kind of British accent is just very like pleasing to listen to. Like I could have him like narrate audiobooks for me, and I would finally get through reading all of the things that I need to read.
By the way, we also got another super chat from somebody. For some reason, if they only send a sticker, I can't see their full name, but I think it's Button Masher. It's £5 from them. So thank you.
Thank you. I love your work. I don't know this person. I just love button mashing.
I'll say, is that Caelan? Just sending $5.
You know this to be true. Yeah. So I've been I'm just absolutely crazy about every video that, and I'm relieved, honestly, that I'm so crazy about every single video. I don't know if anyone else is feeling like, oh, good, I didn't have to do the like.
I was scared. I was very scared.
I liked the background. I liked the way it was short. Which none of us genuinely like. I did not have to do that at all, which is the biggest compliment I can pay, because I also don't watch YouTube. I'm in the middle of like the 18, 16, 50-hour days, and at the moment, and actually the section that I was just working on involved sort of like animation of the kind of like vector kind. And I'm looking at that going like, oh yeah, like it's similar to you with Atom earlier on, Caelan, where it's like you're just seeing like little decisions and little like momentary beats and things like that, and going like, yes, nice clockwork you have.
Yes.
Your clock tells the time. So yeah, I respect.
No, everyone's been very good. Like I haven't needed to search for anything to bring up. It's all been like, oh yeah, no, I like this, I love this, I love this. Everyone's super talented. I love the fact that Armchair Egyptologist was talking about the whole like aliens made the pyramids thing, because it pisses me off so much. Like as someone who has a bit of a deep love for ancient Egypt, I'm just always like, no, they could have made it. They could have. How is that more logical to think aliens did it?
They did, in fact.
And the reason is racism, but yeah it's really good.
Yeah. It's interesting because we had a couple of videos about the exoticism of like of the film exoticism, and exoticism of the other. And it's interesting because, of course, we have like the preeminent Mummy 1999 expert in the group here as well, where it's like, this is a thing we do like, but it's important to just go like, this is such garbage as well, you know, such a garbage attitude that we have as terrible white Westerners, you know. Yeah, that's my thought on it anyway.
I agree. I am garbage.
We're just garbage people. Yeah, so I've had a tremendous time. I hope everyone else has had a tremendous time.
This has been so much fun.
This has been so much fun. I'll admit, I'm kind of sad that it's ending. Part of me wants to like go to the beginning and just do it all over again because it's been so much fun.
Well, we can. Do we have any like closing thoughts or like overarching? I can go first because Neil, because you mentioned this, that it does feel almost like there is almost kind of like a through line across a lot of these videos where a lot of them talk about, I don't know, just I had the words in my brain earlier and now they're gone, but I think that it's interesting that a lot of them feel very similar. And just, I don't know, it's nice. Those are the best words that can come out of my mouth right now.
Speaking of
similarity
nice,
is talent.
it was very nice that we got another super chat from the Witching Hour PLN money, which I don't know what that is, 25 of that, and says, this was such a fun stream. Can't wait to see what you do with this project. Little heart. Thank you.
I love it.
Oh, when you said speaking of nice, I thought it was going to be a super chat for 69.
Oh, someone do it.
That's a hint to chat. Yeah, that's a hint to chat. Give us a nice super chat.
As much as I'm loving these, but like don't give money unless you, because we're not keeping it. We'll give it to a good charity.
We'll donate it. Yeah,
we'll donate it, but like please don't. Yeah, well we're much more shameless on our actual channel.
Yeah, save it for them.
Yeah, save it for our Patreons.
Yeah,
Not some stupid charity.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming to this and everyone that's involved. I love that we started doing this, and it's too bad that we couldn't do it last month. But in a way, I think it kind of worked out okay to like give us a little bit more time, because I know we're all obviously very busy. It's hard to coordinate this across how many different fucking time zones are we all in? Like 5 different time zones. So thank you to all of you for doing this, and especially a big thank you to Caelan for setting up the stream and doing all the technical stuff, because if I had to be in charge of that, oh no. That would have been way too stressful. Plus, I have 2 gerbils for my internet running on a wheel, so would not have been good.
I thought you actually meant you had 2 gerbils, and I was like, where are the pictures, Andy?
I actually have to go. My gerbils are running right now. I left my gerbils on.
I couldn't have gerbils. Murray would definitely eat them.
I also just wanted to say thank you to Sarah and Neil for doing all the like hosting and making all the documents and stuff, because I did not want to touch a single document to do anything. I did Neil did the intro song, and I did the like setting up the channel and stuff, but I did not want to start making spreadsheets and stuff. I give up already just thinking about it. So thank you other people that weren't me for doing it.
Also, we just got 69. So we did it. Donahoe, playlist has been open and set to the side for later, and all channels have been subscribed to, if not previously. Thank you for sharing and producing so much amazing info. Pronounced Donahoe. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And yeah, I think just I was really interested, Zoe, in what you said about like the videos having a common theme. I'm gonna sit and think about them. I do think like, oh, quite a lot of us like history and anthropology. All right, like that's interesting. But yeah, I think we've got really a lot of diverse people who have been sending us videos. There are a lot of diverse content creators on YouTube. If you're someone that makes videos, try your hand, submit to us. We do get a lot. I don't know that we'll necessarily get to highlight everyone that submits to it, because even ahead of this inaugural stream, I think we had like 30 some pieces, and like we're doing these.
They've been coming in. My phone's been going off. People are emailing right now.
Okay.
So like it's amazing, and we will watch them. We don't know that we have the ability to like shout out absolutely everyone, but we'll definitely look and try and shout you out. So it's really exciting. But also, if you're just somebody who watches, we're hoping that like this is also something that you're discovering your new favorite channels. So in order to do that, though, go to the playlist and look at them and subscribe and like, yeah, hopefully some of these small creators. Because the last thing I want is for like some of these small creators who are clearly so talented to just never get the boost from YouTube and then quit and have to like, and then we're like deprived of their art and education. And I personally do not want that. I want these videos. So yeah.
Yeah, because when they grow into themselves, you know, like what lays ahead of like all of us in many ways, to become more like I think that's a really fascinating thing that happens with channels when they get into their stride, when they become more the thing that they are. And you look at these channels that we've highlighted today and go like, oh, turn up all the dials, like be more the thing you are. This applies to everyone except the Anarchy Funhouse. That would be impossible. I mean, I defy you, Adam. But apart from Adam, like I want to see more content. I don't know about this whole idea of success, because at a certain, I think there's an idea with YouTubers where it's like success is based on a number. But if you ask the individual YouTubers what that number is, they will all tell you it is the next number. And that's basically what success is. It's the next number. And at a certain point, you have to accept that actually maybe the number you have is a pretty damn respectable kind of success that you should celebrate and you should be happy about. So we're not highlighting anyone to point out that like, oh, these are baby channels and we must have, you know, we must grace them with our spotlight. It's not really like that. Instead, it's like we're all part of a community. And we really are here because we don't watch video essays. Certain Caelan and I don't, but we like them. And we like the idea of them. And this is a very exciting and important art form. And as you can see, it has a tremendous amount of scope and range. And at the same time, when you find one that you just feel like, oh, this is home, you know, it feels good. And for anyone who submitted, who maybe thinks that like they missed their chance this what turned out to be 2 months, but this round, that's not really how it works. We actually have a bunch lined up that may not be even in the next stream, and we won't be able to do that often. But you are all constantly in consideration. We will be watching everything. We will be getting through everything. And if you are not selected and it's 6 months later, it might just be because you fell through the cracks simply because other people were choosing ones that were tonally similar, and we didn't want to have two about that thing or whatever. It's not necessarily a reflection of anything other than our own half-assed conception of pacing. So don't take it personally. Yeah.
But yeah. Can I? Is it too horrible to say if you want that we have a video coming out this week? If anybody
do it.
Anybody wants to chat, if anyone wants to continue chatting with us, we have a video coming out this week. I know that
you monsters.
You know. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say
self-promotion. What?
In our stream of videos too, but I'm not sure they're announcing yet, so I'm being cagey.
Okay. Well, if anyone has any announcements for their own projects, ours is going to be out next. What day is it now? Saturday.
Ours is going to be out on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Well, it'll be next week anyway, but it'll probably be Tuesday. Yeah. Almost certainly Tuesday. And we're very excited about it because it's been a while since we've released anything.
This one we've been working on for 3 months.
Yeah.
So.
Does anyone else have anything exciting coming up?
I can speak for so myself, Hoots, and Caelan all have a podcast, if you're not aware, called Respect the Dead, and our new episode will be coming out this Monday. And you should listen to it because it's going to be really, really good. And we have a YouTube channel. We're on all the podcasts players that you can think of, Stitcher and Spotify and all those things. So you should definitely check that out. I believe the next episode is one that Hoots hosted, and it's a really good one. Hoots' episodes are always really good anyway. So you should definitely check that out when that comes out on Monday.
Thanks. I forgot I had a podcast.
Zoe, do you have anything?
Coming up? Well, there are things that are going to be coming out that are very low key kind of videos. So I don't know that they're worth talking about. But next Sunday, like a week from tomorrow, is the next meeting of the TTRPG that I am in with the Armchair Egyptologist. 10 o'clock Eastern time over on their Twitch channel. So feel free to come pop into that if you want.
That's exciting.
We do a really awful Southern accent and also sometimes a really awful British accent.
Oh, by the way, I would love to shout out, she's been active in the chat. She's been really good about sharing the link to the playlist, but Mika from Ponderful is fantastic creator. We're going to have her hopefully with us next time. She had COVID, as we mentioned earlier. And also, she recently had a video come out. She's been doing a couple of videos talking about some gender critical talking points and debunking them. And they're really fantastic videos. Yeah. I'd love to shout that out because Mika makes fantastic videos anyway. She talks a lot about like disability and things like that. But the gender critical episodes that she's been doing especially are really good. So please go check out Ponderful if you haven't yet.
Yeah, if you came to my channel through the Gender Critical series, you will definitely like Mika's videos. They're much less horrible to watch than my series. And just like the humor and the pacing and the delivery and I mean everything about them, but like especially that is like so sharp and so good.
She also has a very pleasing voice.
Yes, oh my god, yes.
Does. Every video, I'm like, I want Mika to do all my lines. She's so good.
Every time.
Yeah, we've
Mika every time.
overused the joke of having Mika's voice over someone else's like mouth movements. Like, and I'll go to do it again, and Sarah will be like, "No, we already did that." And I'll be like, "Oh, God, I want to do it again." It's so funny. Such a lovely voice. So droll. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mika's been planning these streams and this from the beginning. So like just because her face isn't here today, that's just because it's her turn to be struck down, I suppose. But she's been just as involved.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and I technically am a guest here. I may, come on at some point in the future as well. But so consider me just the Mika replacement for this episode. And in future ones, you will have her wonderful presence here to present videos as well.
Well, Zoe, you're the other person who I think of with the like very calming. So
yes,
I feel like
I do what I can.
There can only
I can
so
get in
much,
real
like...
close and do an ASMR.
I'm sorry. Mika just wrote in the chat, I'm blushing and not just from the fever. It's so cute.
So there will be a Ponderful with us on the next stream. The stream should be next month. Mm-hmm. And we can't say much more than that. And there will be other guests in the future. And of course, we'll ask Zoe to come back. And that is entirely down to Zoe.
No, never. This was awful. I hated it every second.
Oh, finally somebody said it.
You could cut the tension with a knife.
And remember to subscribe to the actual F the Algorithm channel, because in theory we'll be doing that from that channel in the future.
Going forward, it will
Caelan's,
always be from that channel. Yeah. We just wanted to hopefully get a little bit of a boost from anyone who hasn't watched that video that I posted from my subscribers.
Yeah, so basically none of you have any excuse to comment under Caelan's next community post, whatever happened to F the algorithm. Like, on a different channel. It was never meant to be on Caelan's channel. And sometimes things happen like that because it's a very difficult platform to navigate, and isn't that the whole point in the first place? So on that note, perhaps we shall we certainly, being here in GMT, shall away to bed. And the rest of you might away to all sorts of daytime things, like getting yourself ice cream or riding on bicycles or staying in your room and setting up green screens so that you can pretend to be on bicycles eating ice cream. All sorts of things that you might do.
Called out.
But it's wonderful. It's wonderful being here. Thank you so much. I'm going to be quiet now and say goodbye.
All right. Bye, everybody. This was fantastic.
Bye.
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 I don't know how to